no doubt have seen in the news last week about the huge fire that tore through the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Maybe you also saw the image on the front pages of the papers of a golden cross inside the cathedral that remained intact while smoke damaged the scene all around it, a powerful visual reminder of the power of the cross. Well, the cathedral is still in the news this week, in particular the fundraising efforts to pay for its restitution. Donors, including billionaires, millionaires and ordinary people, have raised in excess of £650 million for the restoration. And many people are really pleased and encouraged by this. They want to see the cathedral restored to its former glory. But others have been asking questions about whether this is the best use of the money. They've been trying to draw attention to other worthy causes that the money could be used for, especially in light of the months of protests in Paris against the high cost of living. And so it really does beg an interesting question. What would give the better, truer picture of God? Is it restoring this internationally revered house of worship so that in some small way it can reflect God's majesty? And understanding that for a lot of people, a dysfunctional building would represent a dysfunctional God, and so we have to fix one to restore the perception of the other? Or would restoring the church so that it's functional but not extravagant, in order to use the money to help children and low-income families, would that show a truer picture of God? Intentionally restoring the building on a budget in order to affirm that God prioritizes people ahead of things. You can make a strong case for either option. What do you think? This situation reminds me of an account in Exodus where God lays out plans for the building of the sanctuary, and he gives Moses a list of the materials that are needed: gold and acacia wood and fine linen. And so Moses invites the people to start making financial contributions. But very soon, he has to tell the people to stop. The foreman says the people are bringing much more than enough for doing the work that the Lord has commanded us to do. The people are so generous that Moses tells them to stop. I love this story. I think it's a great example of how we as people can be abundantly faithful to God. But I also like what it says about God. It says that God wants us to sacrifice and be committed to causes and projects that are important to him. And there was no cause more important than the sanctuary, the place where he would dwell with his people. But it also says that God isn't overindulgent. He doesn't just want material giving for the sake of it. He isn't demanding more and more and more, fancier fixtures, more ornate embroidery, shinier jewels. There is a point where he says, I am pleased with what we've done. Let's keep it as a sanctuary and not let it become an idol. Just because they could have spent more didn't mean that God wanted them to spend more. After all, this is the same God who literally wrote it into law that people should make provision for the poor and the needy in their day-to-day life. It's like God is saying, it's good to spend money on buildings and places of worship, but you also need to take care of people. Don't do one at the expense of the other. And so here are our 3 takeaways. Number 1, God is a God of balance. Material things need to be attended to, but so do the immaterial things. Let's try and get that balance right. Number 2, when people give of their own free will, it isn't our place to judge where they give. Instead, let's be inspired to also give to the causes that we know please God. And number 3, wouldn't it be amazing if we were so generous to God through our tithing, through our free will offerings, through our charitable giving, that he sent a message to us to say, stop, you've done enough. I think that would be the kind of experience that would transform your life into a life less ordinary.